Autism in the eyes of the world. There are different spectrum levels when it comes to autism. Level 1 usually requires a lot of support and patience. Level 2 usually requires a lot of social support as well, and it's limited to narrow special interests with others, and there's a lot of repetitive behaviors. And level 3 is usually the most severe level autism, where people can be nonverbal and struggle with their hand and body movements. And they also have a hard time focusing on one thing.
In order for us to get this documentary right, we had the honor to sit down with Linda, who is Christopher's mother and has been parenting him for 40 years. And Yuki's friend Nanako, whose experience having siblings with autism and being in Japan, we needed to get her experience. Perfect.
Action.
Good evening, Linda.
Good evening.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
What was your life before having Christopher?
I was very carefree. I love music. I love dancing. Was diagnosed not having children. I wasn't supposed to have any children. And then I figured I'd start my own business. And then when I started my business, all of a sudden, I'm pregnant. Nah, it's impossible. They said. And then Christopher came along and he was autistic and trying to find out.
But she refused to listen to the critics and so forth. She had to fight with every bit of fibre in her being to give her son a fighting chance to have a future for him. He can communicate well. He's active in his hometown and is very social with everyone, especially today in college. At 43 years of age, Christopher is like any regular human being, living life. But 43 years ago, it wasn't like this. He looked normal when he entered the world on December 18th, 1980, and in the first few months of his life, Christopher seemed normal. However, his mother Linda noticed something different about him. She noticed signs and signals that her son had something different. Then she called her mother.
When my son wasn't responding to me like regular children do, I called my mother and I asked her, Mom, where's the Google Gaga stuff?
And what she had told her next would change her life and her world forever.
And she said, Linda, look up the word autism.
私が思う自閉症は、自閉症の人がいて、生まれた時からその子と一緒に育ってきたから私にとってはすごい。
I'm sorry to tell you, but you have to give in to the people that know what to do with these kind of children. What? No. I looked up the word autism. Lifelong debilitating disease, you know.
可愛い存在というか、自閉症の人って聞いたらすごい可愛いなっていう印象が強いです。
Child's not going to do anything. Child's not going to be able to contribute to society and stuff like that. That's the first time I heard about autism. People didn't want to use the word autism. You could get sued if your child developed more proficiently because autism was thought of such negatively. And I found out that in the past, which really scared me, was that we were called refrigerated heart parents. Parents with refrigerated hearts. And back in the day, people actually jumped out of windows because they believed they weren't good parents. And they believed they just couldn't reach their child because they weren't good parents. I think that's what made me more determined to find out, what is this thing? Why do people keep, what? What do I have to do? And then I started to study Chris.
1% of the UK's population has autism. 1 in 67 people in the UK are autistic. And to add to that, 7 out of 10 people who have autism suffer with mental health due to their diagnosis. Just like the schoolgirls we see here, almost 3/4 of the kids in school with autism have reported being judged or misunderstood by their peers or teachers.
And Kezia was tiny. She could sense she wasn't quite the same as her friends.
I knew that I was too different to be normal. And every time I tried to say that, just people wouldn't listen. And it was just, everyone's unique and all that, which is rubbish actually, because there are people who are more unique and need help.
I would like to find love. There, I said it.
The show Undateables lends its hand to the idea that it is a dating show for those with autism and other disabilities.
You've got really nice lips, and I wonder if I can kiss you.
Whilst this may seem like a great concept, It's actually been very harmful to the autistic community and many other communities with disabilities. In this clip, we see a man and a woman, both autistic, on their first date.
Introduced before. I'm Michael, by the way. You
Hi.
must be Alice.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you, Alice.
you too.
Yeah. Well, Alice, it seems we both got autism, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Describe yourself to me in 3 words.
Some people see the show as degrading, whereas some people see the show as uplifting, and this is the juxtaposition we see in the media.
最初のモノマネをしてる人は見かけたことある。なんかすごい気持ち悪いなと思った。面白いと思ってやってたかもしれないけど、その人は。
The media's representation of autistic people, especially in the Undateables, is almost as if they can't think for themselves, when this is clearly not true.
At the time that people did not understand autism, what was your reaction from people that disrespected you?
Okay, there's a story that goes along with that. Tell the story. But for people to understand more about the living hell that people were in at the time. So I used to take Christopher, like to places, but he would wear a tie and a shirt in order for him to sit down and eat outside. And he got a little rowdy. So I got down to him, I said, now Christopher, listen to me. You are not going to have your hot dog and your french fries. Hoping he still understood what I was saying. Still. And there were 2 ladies that were standing by me. And now I'm down here and there's 2 ladies up here. The lady said, oh, some people just don't know how to control their children. I get scared thinking about this myself. And I grabbed her and I said, lady, you don't know what losing oneself means yet. But if you're up here, you will know when I get up again. No. That's a no-no.
As we can see, many people don't know how to handle autism. And which not to handle, it turns into frustration, possibly harm to their children.
I sat in the car for about 15 minutes and actually contemplated putting Jody in the car and driving off the George Washington Bridge.
Tonight, we have a CBS News investigation into the use of electric shock to change harmful behaviors in children and adults with development disabilities, including autism.
How many times a day do you think you were shocked?
In the beginning, I was shocked every day.
His arms and legs, then shocked 31 times. Can you describe it for me?
It's so scary. I would ask God to make my heart stop.
Do you think that the students fear the shock?
No.
No doubt you've heard how Daniela Dawes suffocated, killed her autistic son Jason.
Maybe the bright idea is to send them into a public institution. As we see, this is not a bright idea. Yeah. During the early misconceptions of autism, the government, in its efforts to contain and possibly correct the mental disabilities of children, built these institutes. But they were wrong. They were very understaffed and performed atrocities on all mentally disabled children.
Many of the profoundly retarded children aren't capable of feeding themselves. In my building, we had no staff to train them in a systematic way to use utensils to feed themselves. That can be done.
The kids you see here will later get hepatitis. This was the most disturbing thing doctors seen.
The smell is so overwhelming, it's almost nauseating. I frankly don't understand how they have people who will work there, to be honest with you.
Oh, what was he like when he found out your son had autism?
He actually never
tried to be dead, but he never really was dead.
He thought I wasn't a good mother and I wasn't doing right by my kid, and he just didn't accept it.
He never was the type of father that taught his child to play baseball or take them to fishing or anything.
He would take Christopher and treat him regular, even though I told him, please don't subject him to this, don't put him in crowds, don't do this. And when Christopher would come home, he'd be totally undone and I'd have to start all over again. But it was good trials. Oh, he can't do that. Okay, let's try this. You know, it was good though. That's the way I could learn more about Christopher and his needs and his do's and his don'ts. My husband left, and then he sold the business and got married.
He just left. And I always thought, why me? I tried to give him a hug the first time, and he just shoved me away. He was that ice cold. The other time was Ladies of Laughter. My cousin brought me in, and he said, you have got to get that hug. You've got to get what you need. And so I finally got it after 10 years or so. It felt liberating, you know. It felt like relief to finally get it. And when I got out of there, I started crying like a baby because it felt like I wanted to let go of that emotional anguish, that baggage, if you will. But I realize now I'm not at fault for anything. It's him.
So, and eventually, well, he cut ties and he lived his own life as a woman.
If you could only see how much I've grown in the long time that he has left me.
Recently, we've seen a lot of characters in Hollywood movies being portrayed with autism. It looks like it's not a disability anymore. What is your opinion on that?
I think the more that is accepted,
Yeah.
then it doesn't become a disability. You can't do math this way? You can't do this way? Well, no. They were treated according to statistics. Rain Man has
Never touch the steering wheel when I'm driving. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
You hear me?
They put the word out there. Best way to show what autism was, little toothpicks and counting and stuff, was our children not those.
Let me check. Sorry about the toothpicks. 82, 82, 82. 82 what, man? How much is this?
Toothpicks. You know how much 312 times 123 is?
38376.
He's right.
What?
He's right.
He's right?
Yeah. 4,343 times 1,234.
5359262.
He's a genius, right? I mean, that is amazing. He should work for NASA or something like that.
その知識をとか、それを、拡散するいい手段だなとは思う。そうやって、芸能人を使ってって形にはなるけど、注目するじゃん、やっぱ。この人が自閉症の役を演じるってなったら注目が集まるし、なんかそのものにしなくちゃいけないから、そうやって映画とかそういう芸能人の人たちによってなんかそういうの知識が広まるのは別にいいことか。
Do you have another positive story?
Yes. The day that Christopher came home to me, one day, Ma, I want to run for office. Oh yeah? Okay. Go find out what you need to do, honey. He comes back, I gotta have 100 signatures. Oh, okay. And you're gonna help me. Well, I said, when you get 40, I'll help you with the last 60.
Cut.
And he got the 100 tickets. Then he went down to put them in for what? What was it?
Assembly seat.
Assembly seat. And I'm getting phone calls from newspapers and news people. Is your son Christopher Gale? Yes. Is he running for office? Yes. And the day that I walked into the voting booth to vote for my son, this is the little boy that they said would never contribute to society. I know some of them have seizures and this and that and the other. I understand that. But our children, we can tap into something that will make them be able to be recognized for themselves in this world.
And even though their family has been through a lot, Linda knows she would not change it for a thing.
So he saved my life because then I was determined, more so, when I learned about Buddhist practice, how to fight have to really fight for what I want and what I need in my life. And I needed my son to be independent, and it kept me going. That's why Christopher saved my life. Hi.